So welcome to one of our final topics, pilgrimage and religion. We go on pilgrimages all the time. We can think about each time that we go on a pilgrimage, we're preparing ourselves perhaps with special clothing. For example, my trip to Disney World, the first one as a little kid, I had to wear a special Mickey Mouse hat and a shirt and all that to go to Disney World. And when I got there, it was quite astounding. New thoughts, new images, everything new to me. And when I left, then my pilgrimage to Disney World was over. And I went back home and told all my friends about my exciting time and my transformed life. So one might laugh at the idea of a trip to Disney World being a pilgrimage, but the truth is we engage in pilgrimages all our lives. And among the first to study this process was a Belgian scholar in the early 20th century, Arnold van Gennep. Gennep realized that there are these three major stages to a pilgrimage. First, there is the separation stage where one cuts off what one knew about in the past, and our former lives are transformed as we separate from our friends and family to go on the pilgrimage. Next, he noted the liminal stage. And the liminal stage would be, by comparison, a time when I'm entering Space Mountain. During Space Mountain, I don't know what's all going on, images, lights. It's a bit scary. But when I step off of Space Mountain, then it's time to reincorporate and assemble what changed in my mind due to that liminal experience where I'm not fully conscious of my usual self. We can see in this image here, these Muslims have all gotten rid of their traditional clothing. You can't tell their class or the region they come from wearing these white garments. And that's the intention, is to sublimate class distinctions and others so that all can be grouped in oneness of class and status as they begin the pilgrimage to Mecca. So this is the separation stage. And so indeed, liminality and the liminal phase of this process was not fully studied until the writings of the well-known scholar Victor Turner, as he looked at liminality, seeing it as a place in between. If you will, in popular parlance, we could say it was the twilight zone, where nothing seems familiar, everything seems new, and you don't know even fully what's going on as you have this pilgrimage experience when you're in the middle of it. Even this video had a separation stage as it begins before you clicked on it. And then the liminal period is this new awareness that's going on right now, which we call learning, becoming aware of these three stages of pilgrimage. So it's betwixt and between and outside of the usual boundaries of normal human interaction, beyond the laws and constraints and customs of society. So to use our two pilgrimages example, before I went to Disney World and experienced Space Mountain, I was no longer this James Powell. I was not yet the James Powell who will have experienced the entire Disney World. And likewise, when on the pilgrimage to Mecca, a Muslim is no longer who they were. They're now with their friend set and the distinctions of usual society all gone, but they are not yet who they will be after the pilgrimage, where their consciousness will have been transformed by that experience. And in essence, they will not be exactly the same people. So indeed, a group of pilgrims on that journey we can think of so many examples. Lord of the Rings, these hobbits traveling around are in a state of communitas. Now, through the liminal experiences of traveling through the elven cities and going to Mordor, they are no longer who they were, and they are transformed in their consciousness. And being outside of normal human society, they're dangerous by not being bound by normal social constrictions, normal laws, and usual behavior. And of course, we can think of many famous liminal experiences in the history of religion. Certainly, the awakening of the Buddha was a case where he separated from his pals and then sat down to meditate and then became the Buddha as he experienced that deep awakening. Then he reincorporated. Likewise, Muhammad, receiving the prophecies of Allah from the angel Jibril, he was not the same man after those liminal experiences where his identity faded away. Jesus Christ, in his apotheosis, likewise was transformed, and a metamorphosis takes place as his disciples see that he is no longer this same fellow. And so now this community of disciples, whether it's the disciples of the Buddha, Muhammad, or Jesus, the class distinctions are all erased, and these are dangerous people who will, in fact, transform the entire planet through their liminal experiences, traveling as a community. So Victor Turner saw this idea of communitas among such people and noted that it exists among the hippies or the beatniks, or we might say today the goths. These are people who've separated from usual society and stand out as a distinct community. And even in modern society, there are those in a kind of constant liminal state, if you will, outside the boundaries of the standard average society. Victor Turner elucidates this idea that the priest or mystic or hermit, the monk, even the hobo, or in olden times, the gypsies, were all people part of a community that were liminal to the rest of society, mysterious, living alone, not obeying the average standards and strictures of the larger society. And finally, in the end, the pilgrim has to come home and live in the usual society. It's at that point that the pilgrim attire is taken off, and the transformed pilgrim re-enters family life, social life, goes back to work, but not the same person this time. Their consciousness has been transformed by a liminal experience they will never forget. And it may even result in personality changes. So next time you're out and about, note how often it is you engage on a kind of pilgrimage. They happen all the time and to everyone, from small ones like Disney World to big ones like the pilgrimage to Mecca undertaken by Muslims. So keep an eye out for your own pilgrimage.